Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take you down memory lane on Donald Trump's track record, past and present, especially to the melanated community that have decided to vote for this man. So let's look down memory lane. Now, one of the things that Donald Trump was good at repeating when he was in office, he kept saying he was the least racist person you've ever encountered. First of all, wouldn't that be the judge of the people around you? When somebody tells you something like that, I'm not very inclined to believe them. I'm just saying. So, although he says that, his past tells a whole different story. Now, if you remember when Donald Trump first came into office, there was a ban on Muslims. Y'all remember what was going on at the airport when they would try to come in to the United States? And some of them were just citizens that went to visit their family back home, and they were coming back and they got detained up at the airport. And I remember that, and I know many of you do. Okay. And so he tried to impose this ban on Muslims, and of course he has put out stereotypes against the melanated community. And if you remember, there was a reporter, and Donald Trump was talking about the incident at Charlottesville. And if you remember, when he said there were good people on both sides, and a lot of people were like, what? You have this alt right group down there, and you're like, there's good people on both sides. Yeah. And they were the ones marching around with the tiki torches. Yeah, y'all remember that too. And if you remember, he had these natives come up to the White House, and in the room they were in, he had pictures of Andrew Jackson on the wall. Y'all remember that? He just thought that was hilarious. You could see the big smirk on his face the whole time. So, the Asians were not happy with him during the pandemic because, he was calling it the Chinese virus and Hong Kong flu. Y'all remember that? Yeah. They were very upset with Donald Trump. They were very upset with him saying that. But, there were a lot of people that did not disagree with Donald Trump on that, especially when it came down to the pandemic. So let's take a walk down memory lane, y'all. Let's take a walk. So if you remember, Donald Trump and his father were sued back in 1973. They had found evidence, the federal government found evidence that Trump and his father were refusing to rent to black tenants. Okay. And, they did that more than once, by the way. They did that more than once. So Trump said the federal government was trying to get him to rent to welfare recipients. Well, even if they were welfare recipients, if they could prove they could pay for the apartment that you had available, you can't just deny them because they're welfare recipients. So that's not a very good reason, Donald Trump. And not to mention, all black people are not on welfare. So, in the aftermath, he signed an agreement in 1975 agreeing to not discriminate to renters of color without admitting previous discrimination. So, in the 1980s, Trump Castle was accused of discrimination. And Donald and Ivana at the time came to a casino. The bosses would order all the black employees off the floor. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know that? When Donald Trump and Ivana, his ex wife, would come to the casino, the black employees were all ordered off of the floor. So, in other words, Donald Trump and Ivana would walk in and they wouldn't see any black faces, only the white employees that worked there. And that happened in the 1980s. And in 1989, and y'all can look this up, I'm not making this stuff up. You're free to look up anything. In 1989, you remember the Central Park Five that were accused of attacking a jogging white woman in New York City. Trump took out a full page ad in the local newspapers there saying, "Bring back the death penalty, bring back our police." And despite the fact that DNA evidence ruled them out as the attacker, he refused to apologize. Yeah, there were DNA evidence. And this was the Central Park Five, and they were all ruled out as possible attackers based on DNA evidence. And to this day, Donald Trump refuses to apologize. In 1991, John O'Donnell, former president of Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, quoted Trump's criticism of a black accountant. "Black guys counting my money, I hate it. The only kind of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day." This is what he said. Mm-mm-mm. I think that guy is lazy. Black people are lazy because, when chattel slavery was over, we wouldn't work for free no more. Our forefathers wouldn't work for free. So that's when you became lazy. So, anyway, and it's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks. It really is. I believe that. It's not anything they can control, Trump later said in a 1997 Playboy interview that the stuff of O'Donnell wrote about me is probably true. In 1992, the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino had to pay a $200,000 fine. Now, these casino hotels, ladies and gentlemen, were in New Jersey, okay? Because it transferred black and women dealers off tables to accommodate big time gambler prejudices. Yeah, the black employees ordered off the floor when him and Ivana came to the hotel. And if there were some big rollers that were trying to gamble, they were ordered off the floor then too. And the women also. In 1993, in a congressional testimony, Trump said that some Native American reservations operating casinos shouldn't be allowed because they don't look like Indians to me. That's what he said. And you're probably right because they're really not the original Indians, despite the fact that this country tries to tell us they are. They're not. In 2000, in opposition to a casino proposed by the St. Regis Mohawk tribe, which he saw as a financial threat to his casinos in Atlantic City, Trump secretly ran a series of ads suggesting that the tribe had a record of criminal activity that was well documented. In 2004, in the season of The Apprentice, Trump fired Kevin Allen, a black contestant, for being overeducated. You can always go back and look these things up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not telling you anything that's BS. You're an unbelievably talented guy in terms of education, and you haven't done anything, Trump said on his show. At some point, you have to say that's enough. So he penalized a black man by the name of Kevin Allen for being overeducated. Uh-huh. In 2005, Trump publicly pitched what was essentially The Apprentice: white people versus black people. He said he wasn't particularly happy with the most recent season of his show, so he was considering an idea that is fairly controversial: creating a team of successful African American versus a team of successful whites. Whether people like that idea or not, it was somewhat reflective of our very vicious world. Mm, mm, mm. In 2010, there was a huge national controversy over Ground Zero Mosque, a proposal to build a Muslim community center in lower Manhattan near the site of 9/11. Trump opposed the project, calling it insensitive, and offered to buy out one of the investors in the project. On a late night show with David Letterman, Trump argued, referring to Muslims, well, somebody blowing us up, somebody's blowing up buildings, and somebody doing a lot of bad stuff. That's just Donald Trump being himself. In 2011, Trump played a big role in pushing false rumors about Obama. Remember, he was questioning Obama's birth certificate, and then Obama came out with his birth certificate, and then Trump went completely silent after that. Hmm. So remember, Trump was trying to imply that Obama was not born in the US. But like I said, after he did come out and show his birth certificate, Trump suddenly went silent. Hmm. And let's see, 2016, Trump started that university, Trump University. Y'all remember Trump University? And that one was really aimed towards Mexicans and Hispanics. That racist insult. He made a racist insult about them. And then he endorsed, there was a Judge Gonzalo Carrell, who was overseeing the Trump University lawsuit, who recused himself from the case because of his Mexican heritage and membership in Latino Lawyers Association. House Speaker back then was Paul Ryan, who endorsed Trump, later called such comments the textbook definition of a racist comment. Trump has repeatedly slow to condemn white supremacists who endorse him. That was another thing that came out in 2016. And he regularly would retweet messages from white supremacists and neo Nazis during his presidential campaign. Now, some of y'all might remember that in 2016. I do remember that. Okay. So, also in 2016, Trump officially seized the mantle of the term law and order. So, he became the law and order candidate, an obvious dog whistle playing on the fears of whites of black crime, even though crime in the US was historically low, and it still is. His speeches, comments, and executive actions after he took office continued this line of messaging. Okay, also in 2016, in a pitch to black voters in 2016, Trump said, "You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?" Wow, I remember that too. Trump stereotyped a black reporter at a press conference February 2017 when April Ryan was inquiring about his plans to meet and work with the Congressional Black Caucus. He repeatedly was asking her to set the meeting up when yeah, which is not a reporter's job. Why would a journalist set up a meeting between Donald Trump and the Congressional Black Caucus? Does this make any sense? Why would a journalist? That's not a journalist's job to do that. And she, of course, told him, "I'm just a reporter." Why? Yeah. Why would she set up a meeting between Donald Trump and the Congressional Black Caucus? So in the week after the attack in Charlottesville in August of 2017, Trump repeatedly said many sides and both sides were to blame for the violence and chaos that ensued, suggesting that the white supremacist protesters were morally equivalent to the counter protesters who stood against racism. He also said that there were some very fine people among the white supremacists. All of this seems like a dog whistle, and it was, you know. And you remember Richard Spencer at that time was praising Donald Trump. And if you remember, I remember this incident because I was actually out on Twitter when this happened. In 2017, Trump repeatedly attacked NFL players who, by kneeling or otherwise silently protesting during the national anthem, demonstrated systemic racism in America. Trump said that people who came, and he this right, because remember, he was highly critical. He was calling them SOBs for taking a knee. But y'all remember, just a month ago they wanted the NFL to take a knee for Israel. So it's okay to take a knee for Israel, but not okay to take a knee because your people are being harmed by the police. Okay, whatever. So anyway, let's move on. Trump reportedly said in 2017 that people who came to the US from Haiti all have AIDS. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. And he lamented that people who came to the US from Nigeria would never go back to their huts once they saw America. Uh-huh. And of course, when he was called out on it, he reportedly denied the whole thing, that he never said those things. But if you remember, Trump never stepped foot in Africa. He couldn't. The only one that went to Africa was his staff and Melania. Trump himself, he said so many bad things about Africa being an S-hole country and all that stuff. He couldn't step foot in Africa. He couldn't go. Speaking about immigration and bipartisan meeting in January 2018, Trump repeatedly was asking in reference to Haiti and African countries, why are we having these people from S-hole countries come here? He then reportedly suggested that the US should take more people from countries like Norway. Well, those people aren't going to come over here, Trump. You know why? They get too many perks over in Norway, especially like free health care. You know, they get more vacation than Americans do. You know, why would they give all of that up and come live in expensive America? And I remember that too. Trump denied making the S-hole comments, although some senators present at the time said he did indeed say this. The White House, meanwhile, suggested that the comments like Trump's remarks about the NFL protests will play well to his base. Yeah, yeah. And they his base sure didn't say nothing when they wanted them to kneel just a few weeks ago. As long as it's not for melanated people, I guess it's okay to kneel. Okay. Okay, so Trump tweeted that same year, I believe this was 2019. That year, several black and brown members of Congress, he took to Twitter. Remember, he was fighting with Ayanna Presley, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. Remember, they were in a disagreement with Nancy Pelosi, and then Trump decided to dive in there and start fighting with these women, which he really should not have done. He should have been above that as a president, but apparently he's not. So, and he really came on strong against Ilhan Omar, and a lot of people found that to be racist. All right. And Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. So Trump suggested that Kamala Harris, who is, they keep telling us she's black one day and then the next day she's Asian. So we don't know. She morphs into more racist than anyone I have ever seen. And he went on to say Kamala Harris does not meet the requirement to be vice president. And Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden's running mate, yet another example of birtherism. So, y'all, you may not change your mind, but you should still know what Donald Trump's track record is, and it's not good at all. And you can best believe when he gets in the White House again, it will tank again. But when it comes down to voting, you can make up your own mind. Some in our community can look past all the racism and still cheer on a Donald Trump, while others will look at it and say, I'm absolutely not budging to vote for this person. So, no matter what you decide, please let me know in the comment section. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.